Talk a little bit about week 3 and looking at style. I'm looking at assignment 3, but really, if you go back to week 3, the beginning, the introduction here is going to talk to you a little bit more about determining the style and subject in art. You'll be given a lot more terms, so let's start it out good. Let's sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil, and as you come to these terms, go ahead and write some of them down, okay? Um, it talks about how when you approach a work of art, uh, you're looking for some kind of meaning. What's going on here? And the reality is, meaning sometimes is a little bit hard to figure out. So you have to sort of start back into it. Look at the picture carefully. One of the things you might want to consider is style, all right? And that basically talks about how the artist uses the elements of art and principles to express the subject, okay? Then if you go to the menu on the left, it's going to talk about subjects. It's going to give you some good information. And then it's going to introduce, finally, what style really is. You got to know the subject, and once you've got the subject down, then we're moving into style, and that's an important thing. Now, guess what? You're going to get a lot more terms also. Naturalistic is a term you're going to get, so be sure and write it down. Come to some kind of a definition as to what naturalistic really is. You're going to come and pull up what realism is, all right? See if naturalistic and realism sort of works. Get a definition for that as well. And if you go over on that menu on the left of our site, you're going to find illusionism and idealism, romanticism, expressionism. Go through all of that. Now, I know this is going to take some time, but yeah, you're right. It is going to take some time. So plan this out if you can. Give yourself a little bit of time every day. Don't try to do it all at once. Or if you do, take breaks so that you can get through it all right, because it's just impossible. It gets blurry if you try to read it all at once, okay? Then when you've got a good handle on what all of these styles are, then go through your summary and finally go to the assignment 3 and see if you can't pick up one of these topics that you think would be of interest to you. Now, you could make it fairly simple to find realism in art and see if it's necessarily the same as realistic. And they ask you to explain the similarities and differences between the two, realistic and realism, and use 2 applicable art examples. That means find something that shows realism, find something that shows realistic. Maybe they'll be the same thing, but they want to, okay? Now, what is stylized art? That was somewhere that list of topics, it had stylized, and I'm sure you'll run into what conventions in art are. Make these notes, and when you start answering the questions, you'll have a pretty good idea of where you're going to go. For an example, how can artwork be both naturalistic and idealized? Use 2 specific examples of art, okay? Well, now what I would do would be to trot back to my definition, figure out what naturalistic is. Remember that was right on up there in the first part when it talked about, I believe, let's see, under what term? I believe it was under widely used terms of style. So, whoops, didn't mean to do that. We're going to go right over to widely used, there we go, terms of style. And I think I'm going to come over there and pick up naturalistic. In fact, I think naturalism is one of the, yeah, naturalistic, all right? So I'm going to want to read this really carefully. I may want to choose this particular one after I figure out if it's naturalism or not, of course. And then there's another one here. Now, I think you know how to do this. When you come to these in your lecture, if you click on that plus in that magnifying glass, the bigger image will come up and you can get some kind of an idea of what this is. If I were choosing this for an example, of course I would want to say not only is this portrait of an old man with a boy, but it's who it's by, Ghirlandaio, and the period, and maybe even where it is right now in the Louvre in Paris, okay? And I would use that to talk about one or the other of the terms that I'm trying to use in my discussion. Um, so I hope that gives you kind of an idea of where to go on this. And certainly all of these are good topics. You can find out any one you want. Now, what I would do is sit down with my definitions. Then I would use a word processor and write out what I wanted to say. I would run a spell check, work through it in terms of whether or not you're using the right grammar and punctuation. And then I would listen to how it sounds. Just kind of read it out loud to yourself. Be very specific. Don't just say such and such of a painting, um, old man with a young boy is naturalistic. Tell me why it's naturalistic. Tell me because you can count every hair on the head, or because the little squirrel in the window, I don't know if there's a squirrel in the window, shows all of his teeth and he has the right number, but give me the absolute reason that you're saying this and give me specific examples out of those. This is a great way to write, and you're going to be doing this over and over and over again as you move through the other courses at the school, and they will help you express yourself not just visually, which of course is the one side that you're very good at, but verbally, which will help you with those visual ideas, okay? Anyway, let's see if that can't get you started and you have maybe a good idea of what it is you're supposed to do with this particular assignment at least.